Sarah Martinez had been working as a military ordnance specialist for 3 years when she received the assignment that would change everything. The morning sun cast long shadows across the forward operating base in Afghanistan as she prepared for what seemed like routine maintenance work. Her commanding officer had briefed her on a weapons cache discovered in an abandoned compound 20 kilometers from their position. Intelligence suggested the cache contained various small arms, ammunition, and potentially some heavier equipment that needed proper cataloging and disposal. The convoy rolled out at dawn, dust clouds trailing behind their armored vehicles as they navigated the rough terrain. Sarah checked her equipment one final time, her tools for dismantling weapons, safety gear, and the portable detection devices that would help identify any booby traps or explosive components. She had developed a reputation among her unit for being meticulous and fearless when it came to handling dangerous ordnance. The abandoned compound sat nestled between two rocky hills, its mud brick walls crumbling from years of neglect and occasional combat damage. Local intelligence had reported that insurgents had used this location as a weapons storage facility before retreating deeper into the mountains. As the security team established a perimeter, Sarah began her systematic approach to clearing and cataloging the discovered arsenal. The first room she entered contained an impressive array of small arms. AK-47 assault rifles hung from wooden pegs on the walls, their metal surfaces dulled by desert sand and time. Boxes of ammunition were stacked in neat rows, some showing signs of moisture damage from the previous winter's rains. Sarah worked methodically, photographing each weapon, recording serial numbers when visible, and checking for any signs of modification or unusual features that might provide intelligence value. Her movements were precise and practiced as she handled each firearm. Years of training had taught her to treat every weapon as potentially loaded and dangerous, even when logic suggested otherwise. She cleared each rifle's chamber, examined the firing mechanisms, and sorted them into categories based on their condition and tactical significance. Some showed signs of recent use, while others appeared to have been stored for months or even years. As she moved deeper into the compound, Sarah discovered that the weapons cache was far more extensive than initial reports had suggested. A second room revealed rocket-propelled grenades, mortars, and various types of explosive devices. The complexity of the arsenal indicated this had been a significant supply point for insurgent operations in the region. Each discovery required careful documentation and analysis to help military intelligence understand enemy capabilities and supply chains. The heat was becoming oppressive as the day progressed, and Sarah paused frequently to hydrate and rest in whatever shade she could find. Her protective gear made the work even more challenging, but she never compromised on safety protocols. The stakes were too high, and one mistake could result in injury or death for herself and her fellow soldiers. During her lunch break, Sarah noticed something unusual about the compound's layout. The rooms she had cleared so far were clearly designed for storage, but there were other areas that showed signs of different uses. Sleeping quarters, a communications room, and what appeared to be a planning area with maps still pinned to makeshift bulletin boards. This suggested the location had been more than just a weapons depot. It had been an active command post. The afternoon brought new challenges as Sarah began working with the heavier ordnance. Several mortar rounds required special handling procedures, and she called for additional support from the explosive ordnance disposal team. While waiting for their arrival, she continued cataloging smaller items and noticed patterns in the weapon's origins that would prove valuable to intelligence analysts. As evening approached, Sarah had made significant progress in her assigned task. The weapons cache was proving to be one of the largest and most diverse collections she had encountered in her career. Her detailed documentation would help military planners understand enemy capabilities and potentially prevent future attacks. However, she had no idea that her methodical work was being observed from a distant ridge. High above the compound, concealed among the rocks and sparse vegetation, a figure watched through a high-powered scope. The observer had been tracking military movements in the area for weeks, gathering intelligence on patrol patterns and operational procedures. Sarah's presence at the weapons cache represented both an opportunity and a challenge for someone with different objectives. The watcher noted Sarah's professional demeanor and obvious expertise with various weapons systems. Her movements showed confidence and familiarity that came only from extensive training and experience. This was not a typical soldier performing guard duty. This was a specialist who understood ordnance in ways that could prove either valuable or dangerous, depending on one's perspective. As the sun began to set behind the western mountains, casting the compound in golden light, Sarah prepared to conclude her first day of work at the site. She had established a systematic approach that would allow her to complete the cataloging process efficiently over the following days. Her thorough documentation would ensure that every piece of equipment was properly accounted for and either destroyed or repurposed according to military protocols. The security team began their evening preparations, establishing guard rotations and communication schedules for the overnight watch. Sarah reviewed her progress notes and planned the next day's activities. She was particularly interested in examining some of the more sophisticated equipment she had discovered, including what appeared to be advanced targeting systems and communications gear. Unknown to Sarah and her team, their activities were being reported to others through channels they could not have imagined. The compound's strategic value extended beyond its role as a weapons storage facility, and various parties had interests in what might be discovered there. The stage was being set for events that would test Sarah's skills and judgment in ways her military training had never anticipated. The first day concluded with Sarah feeling satisfied with her progress, but also aware that the job ahead was more complex than initially briefed. The weapons cache represented a significant intelligence opportunity, and her role in unlocking its secrets would prove more challenging and dangerous than anyone had predicted. As she prepared for rest, the distant watcher continued surveillance, planning for what would come next. The second day at the compound began with unexpected complications. Sarah arrived at the site to find that overnight reconnaissance had detected movement in the surrounding hills. The security team had increased their alertness level, and additional patrols were being conducted to ensure the area remained secure. Despite these precautions, Sarah was determined to continue her work, knowing that each day of delay could potentially allow valuable intelligence to be lost or compromised. Her focus that morning was on a particularly intriguing collection of sniper rifles she had discovered in a locked room near the back of the compound. The weapons showed signs of careful maintenance and modification, suggesting they had been used by skilled marksmen rather than ordinary insurgent fighters. Each rifle told a story through its wear patterns, scope attachments, and ammunition types found nearby. Sarah carefully examined a Soviet-era Dragunov sniper rifle, noting the custom modifications that had been made to its stock and trigger mechanism. The scope was a high-quality German model that would have cost more than most fighters could afford, indicating this particular weapon had belonged to someone with significant resources and expertise. She photographed every detail, measured distances between modification points, and documented the rifle's overall condition. As she worked with the precision instruments, Sarah found herself thinking about the skill required to use such weapons effectively. Her military training had included basic marksmanship, but she recognized that the rifles before her were tools for specialists who had dedicated years to mastering their craft. The thought was both fascinating and sobering, considering the purposes for which these weapons had likely been employed. The morning's work was interrupted by a radio call from the perimeter guards. They reported spotting a lone figure on a distant ridge who appeared to be observing the compound through optical equipment. The security team immediately moved to investigate, but the mountainous terrain made it difficult to approach the position quickly. Sarah was advised to take cover while the situation was assessed. From her position inside the compound, Sarah could see the ridge in question through a gap in the damaged wall. Even without magnification, she could make out a small movement that suggested someone was indeed watching their activities. The realization that she had been under observation while handling the weapons cache created an uncomfortable feeling of vulnerability that her training had not fully prepared her to handle. The security team's attempt to investigate the ridge position proved unsuccessful. By the time they reached the elevated ground, whoever had been watching had disappeared, leaving behind only faint traces of their presence. Boot prints in the sandy soil and a few disturbed rocks indicated that someone with fieldcraft experience had been conducting surveillance, but no other evidence remained. Upon returning to the compound, the security team leader briefed Sarah on their findings. The observer had chosen their position well, with clear sight lines to the compound and multiple escape routes through the rocky terrain. This suggested military or paramilitary training rather than casual curiosity from local civilians. The implications were troubling, as it indicated that their activities were of interest to potentially hostile parties. Despite the security concerns, Sarah was authorized to continue her work with increased caution and additional protective measures. 2 additional guards were assigned specifically to watch for any signs of surveillance or approach, and communication protocols were enhanced to ensure rapid response to any threats. Sarah appreciated the extra security but was also aware that it might indicate the situation was more serious than initially assessed. Her afternoon work focused on the communications equipment found in the compound's command area. The sophisticated radio systems and encryption devices suggested that this location had been used for coordinating operations across a wide area. Sarah's technical training allowed her to recognize several pieces of equipment that were more advanced than typical insurgent gear, indicating possible state-level support for the group that had operated from this location. While documenting a particularly complex radio setup, Sarah noticed that someone had attempted to destroy certain components before abandoning the site. Circuit boards had been damaged with what appeared to be hammer blows, and data storage devices showed signs of deliberate destruction. However, enough remained intact to provide valuable intelligence about communication networks and operational procedures. The work was painstaking and required Sarah to photograph everything from multiple angles while carefully noting the relationship between different pieces of equipment. Her documentation would allow intelligence analysts to reconstruct how the communication systems had functioned and potentially identify other nodes in the network. This information could prove crucial for disrupting remaining hostile operations in the region. As the afternoon progressed, Sarah became increasingly aware of being watched. Although the perimeter guards reported no further signs of surveillance, she could not shake the feeling that eyes were upon her. The psychological effect was noticeable, making her more cautious in her movements and constantly alert to sounds from outside the compound. Her usual calm efficiency was being tested by the persistent sense of being observed. The feeling intensified when she moved to examine a collection of specialized ammunition she had discovered. The bullets were of various calibers and types, including several designed for long-range precision shooting. As she documented each type, Sarah found herself thinking about the ranges at which such ammunition would be effective and the skill required to use it accurately at extreme distances. Her contemplation was interrupted by a voice calling from outside the compound. The words were in accented English, clear enough to understand despite the distance from which they were spoken. The voice identified itself as someone who had been watching her work and wanted to speak with her about the weapons she had been handling. The tone was not immediately threatening, but the circumstances made any unexpected contact potentially dangerous. The security team immediately moved to defensive positions while trying to locate the source of the voice. Sarah was instructed to take cover and await further instructions. However, the voice called out again, this time specifically addressing her by name and military rank, information that should not have been available to unauthorized persons. The implications of this knowledge were deeply concerning and suggested that the speaker had access to intelligence about military personnel and operations. The voice continued, explaining that the speaker was impressed with Sarah's professional handling of the weapons cache, but questioned whether she truly understood the capabilities of the equipment she was documenting. Specifically, the voice asked if Sarah believed she could effectively use the sniper rifle she had been cataloging, particularly for shots at extreme ranges that would test even experienced marksmen. Sarah found herself in an unprecedented situation. Military protocols dictated that she should not engage with unknown contacts who might be hostile, but the specific nature of the question suggested that the speaker possessed genuine expertise with the weapons she had been studying. The combination of curiosity and caution created a tension that her training had not specifically addressed. The security team leader radioed for additional support and guidance from higher command while maintaining defensive positions around the compound. The situation had evolved beyond routine weapons recovery into something that might require specialized negotiation or tactical response capabilities. Sarah's role had suddenly shifted from technical specialist to potential target or bargaining chip in a developing crisis. As evening approached, The mysterious voice had not spoken again, but the sense of being under observation remained intense. Sarah completed her documentation work for the day while constantly aware that her every movement might be scrutinized by someone with unknown intentions. The professional satisfaction of cataloging significant weapons finds was overshadowed by the realization that her expertise had attracted unwanted attention from potentially dangerous sources. The third morning brought an unexpected development that would transform Sarah's understanding of her situation entirely. As she prepared to resume her cataloging work, the compound's radio operator received a transmission on an emergency frequency. The message was brief but clear. The unknown observer wanted to establish direct communication with Sarah Martinez, the ordnance specialist, regarding a matter of mutual professional interest. Higher command authorization came through after tense consultations that lasted nearly 2 hours. Sarah was permitted to engage in limited communication under strict security protocols, with the conversation monitored and recorded by intelligence personnel. The decision reflected the potential value of gathering information about whoever had been conducting surveillance, even though the risks were considerable. The initial exchange revealed that the mysterious contact identified himself as Victor, a former military sniper with extensive combat experience in multiple conflicts. His English carried the accent of Eastern Europe, and his familiarity with the weapons Sarah had been cataloging suggested genuine expertise rather than casual interest. Victor explained that he had been observing military operations in the region for several months, gathering information for purposes he chose not to specify. Victor's knowledge of Sarah's work was disturbingly comprehensive. He could describe specific weapons she had handled, the order in which she had processed different areas of the compound, and even her methodical approach to documentation. This level of detail confirmed that his surveillance had been systematic and professional, conducted by someone with significant field craft experience and quality optical equipment. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Victor began discussing the technical specifications of the sniper rifles Sarah had been examining. His descriptions went far beyond what could be learned from casual observation, including details about modifications that were not externally visible. Victor clearly had extensive hands-on experience with the weapons and understood their capabilities at a level that impressed even Sarah's technical training. Victor then posed a question that would define everything that followed. He asked Sarah if she believed the precision rifles she had cataloged were capable of achieving accurate hits at ranges exceeding 4 kilometers. The question seemed academic until Victor provided specific details about environmental factors, ammunition characteristics, and shooting techniques required for such extreme-range engagements. Sarah found herself drawn into a technical discussion that revealed the depth of Victor's expertise. He described atmospheric conditions, wind patterns, and elevation considerations that affected bullet trajectory at extreme distances. His knowledge extended to the mathematical calculations required for such shots, including the complex ballistics computations that separated true long-range specialists from ordinary marksmen. The conversation became more personal when Victor questioned whether Sarah had ever attempted precision shooting beyond the basic marksmanship training provided to military ordnance specialists. He suggested that her technical knowledge of weapons systems might not translate to practical shooting ability, particularly under the challenging conditions that characterized real combat situations. Sarah felt compelled to defend her capabilities, explaining her additional training experiences and recreational shooting activities that had developed her marksmanship skills beyond military minimums. However, Victor's responses indicated that he remained skeptical about her ability to effectively employ the precision rifles she had been cataloging, especially for the type of extreme-range shots that represented the pinnacle of sniper craft. The discussion evolved into what amounted to a professional challenge. Victor described a specific scenario: a target located precisely 3,970 meters from a shooting position on the ridge where he had been conducting surveillance. He questioned whether Sarah possessed not only the technical knowledge to calculate such a shot, but also the practical skills to execute it successfully under field conditions. Victor's challenge was accompanied by detailed descriptions of the environmental factors that would affect such an attempt. Wind conditions varied significantly between the shooting position and target due to the complex terrain. Elevation differences created additional ballistic considerations that required precise calculations. Temperature and humidity variations would affect both bullet performance and optical equipment accuracy. Sarah realized that Victor was describing more than a hypothetical scenario. His detailed knowledge of distances, terrain features, and environmental conditions suggested he had actually surveyed a specific shot opportunity involving the 3,970-meter distance he had mentioned. The implications were both intriguing and concerning, as they indicated Victor might have identified an actual target or testing ground for such an extreme-range attempt. The technical discussion revealed that achieving accuracy at nearly 4 kilometers would require not only exceptional shooting skills, but also intimate knowledge of the specific rifle and ammunition combination being used. Victor explained that each weapon had unique characteristics that affected bullet trajectory, and successful extreme-range shooting demanded extensive practice with the exact equipment being employed. Victor's description of the shooting challenge became increasingly specific throughout the afternoon. He detailed the type of ammunition that would be required, the scope adjustments necessary for the extreme range, and the environmental calculations that would determine success or failure. His knowledge suggested extensive experience with such shots, raising questions about his background and current objectives. The conversation took a more serious turn when Victor indicated that he had access to the compound where Sarah was working and could potentially provide the opportunity for her to attempt the challenging shot he had described. He suggested that such a demonstration would settle questions about her practical abilities versus her theoretical knowledge of weapons systems. Sarah found herself facing a decision that went far beyond her original mission parameters. Victor's challenge represented both a professional test of her abilities and a potentially dangerous situation with unknown implications. His access to the compound and detailed knowledge of her activities suggested capabilities that extended beyond simple surveillance. The security team monitoring the communication expressed increasing concern about the direction of the conversation. Victor's implied access to the compound and specific knowledge of shooting positions indicated a level of operational capability that posed potential threats to personnel safety. However, his technical expertise also represented a possible intelligence opportunity if properly managed. As evening approached, Victor presented his final proposition. He offered to provide Sarah with access to a precision rifle suitable for the extreme-range shot he had described, along with appropriate ammunition and a target at exactly 3,970 meters distance. In exchange, he wanted the opportunity to observe her attempt and evaluate her practical shooting abilities against her theoretical knowledge. The proposal placed Sarah in an unprecedented position. Victor's challenge appealed to her professional pride and genuine curiosity about her own capabilities with precision weapons. However, accepting would mean engaging with an unknown contact whose objectives remained unclear and potentially dangerous. The decision would test not only her shooting skills, but also her judgment about risk assessment and professional boundaries. Victor concluded the day's communication by indicating that Sarah had until the following evening to decide whether she would accept his challenge. He provided specific details about when and how the shooting opportunity would be arranged if she chose to participate. The precision of his planning suggested extensive preparation and raised additional questions about his true intentions and capabilities. The night brought intense discussions between Sarah and the security team about the implications of Victor's proposition. The opportunity to gather intelligence about his capabilities and objectives was balanced against the risks of engaging with someone whose background and current affiliations remained unknown. The decision would require authorization from higher command levels and careful consideration of all possible outcomes. The final day began with Sarah receiving authorization from command to accept Victor's challenge under carefully controlled conditions. Intelligence analysts had concluded that the potential information gained justified the calculated risks involved. Additional security teams had been positioned throughout the area, and specialist personnel were standing by to monitor the situation and respond to any threats that might develop. Victor's morning communication provided detailed instructions for the shooting arrangement. Sarah would be provided with a precision rifle system specifically configured for extreme-range shooting, along with hand-loaded ammunition designed for the 3,970-meter distance he had specified. The shooting position would be on the ridge where he had been conducting surveillance, offering clear sight lines across the valley to a target area he had prepared. The technical specifications Victor provided revealed the sophistication of his preparation. The rifle was a custom-built system based on a proven military platform, but modified with specialized components for extreme range accuracy. The barrel had been precisely manufactured to optimize bullet stability at extended distances. The trigger mechanism had been adjusted to provide the consistent release necessary for precision shooting. Sarah studied the ballistic data Victor had calculated for the shot attempt. The numbers revealed the extreme challenge she was accepting. At 3,970 meters, environmental factors would have massive effects on bullet trajectory. Wind variations across the valley could deflect the projectile by several meters. Elevation differences between shooting position and target would require precise angle calculations. Even small errors in distance estimation would result in significant misses. The ammunition Victor had selected was specifically designed for such extreme range applications. Each cartridge was hand-loaded with carefully weighed powder charges and precisely manufactured bullets optimized for long-range ballistic performance. The consistency required for such shots demanded manufacturing tolerances that exceeded mass production capabilities, explaining why such ammunition was typically prepared by specialists for specific applications. Victor's communication included detailed atmospheric data he had gathered using professional meteorological equipment. Barometric pressure, temperature gradients at different elevations, and humidity variations would all affect bullet performance over the extreme distance involved. His data collection demonstrated a level of preparation that impressed even the intelligence analysts monitoring the communications. The arranged meeting point was a concealed position among the rocks near the ridge's highest point. Sarah approached with a full security escort, maintaining communication with command throughout the movement to the shooting position. Victor's choice of location provided excellent concealment and multiple escape routes, suggesting his own security concerns about the arrangement. Victor appeared as agreed, emerging from carefully constructed concealment that demonstrated expert field craft skills. His appearance matched Sarah's expectations, middle-aged, weathered by outdoor conditions, and carrying himself with the confident precision of someone accustomed to dangerous situations. His equipment was professional-grade, but showed signs of extensive field use rather than display purposes. The rifle Victor provided exceeded Sarah's expectations in terms of quality and configuration. Every component had been selected or modified for optimal performance at extreme ranges. The scope was a precision instrument worth more than most soldiers' annual salaries. The stock had been custom-fitted with adjustable components that allowed fine-tuning of shooting position and comfort during extended aiming periods. Victor's briefing on the shot parameters was comprehensive and professional. He used a laser range finder to confirm the exact distance to the target, 3,971 meters, close enough to his original estimate to demonstrate his expertise in distance calculation. Wind measurements at multiple points along the bullet's trajectory revealed the complex conditions that would challenge even expert marksmen. The target Victor had established was a standard precision shooting target scaled appropriately for the extreme distance involved. At nearly 4 kilometers, even a large target would appear as a tiny speck through the rifle scope. Achieving a hit would require not only perfect technical execution, but also the mental discipline to maintain focus throughout the extended aiming and firing sequence. Victor's coaching during Sarah's preparation revealed his genuine expertise and unexpected willingness to help her succeed. He provided detailed guidance on reading wind conditions, calculating elevation adjustments, and managing the breathing techniques necessary for such precise shots. His instruction went far beyond what would be necessary if his intentions were purely hostile. The first shot attempt required extensive preparation time, as Sarah worked through the complex calculations needed for the extreme range. Victor monitored her mathematical approach, occasionally offering corrections or alternative methods, but generally allowing her to apply her theoretical knowledge to the practical challenge. The level of computation required was far beyond normal military marksmanship training. Sarah's initial shot missed the target, but Victor's immediate analysis of the miss provided valuable feedback about environmental conditions and technique adjustments. He used spotting equipment to determine exactly where the bullet had impacted, allowing precise corrections for the follow-up attempt. His professional approach to coaching suggested genuine interest in her success, rather than simply testing her abilities. The second shot incorporated corrections based on the first attempt's results. Sarah adjusted her aim point based on Victor's spotted impact data and refined her wind calculations based on observed bullet behavior. The mental concentration required for such precision work was exhausting, demanding focus levels that exceeded normal shooting experiences. Victor's commentary during the second shot sequence revealed his respect for the challenge Sarah was accepting. He acknowledged that even experienced snipers often required multiple attempts to achieve success at such extreme ranges. Environmental conditions could change significantly during the time required for shot preparation, making success as much about adaptability as initial calculation accuracy. The second shot achieved a significant improvement in accuracy, though still missing the target center. Victor's analysis indicated that Sarah's technical calculations were sound, but that minor execution details were affecting results. He provided specific feedback about trigger control, sight alignment, and follow-through techniques that could improve her performance on subsequent attempts. The third shot represented Sarah's best opportunity to demonstrate her capabilities. She had incorporated Victor's coaching feedback and developed better understanding of the environmental conditions affecting bullet trajectory. Her confidence had grown with each attempt, and the rifle's characteristics had become more familiar through repeated use. Victor's final coaching emphasized the mental aspects of extreme-range shooting. He described the psychological challenge of maintaining perfect concentration throughout the extended aiming sequence while dealing with environmental uncertainties and equipment limitations. His insights revealed depth of experience that extended far beyond technical knowledge into the practical psychology of precision shooting. Sarah's third shot achieved remarkable accuracy for such an extreme range, impacting within inches of the target center. Victor's immediate reaction was one of genuine professional respect, acknowledging that her combination of theoretical knowledge and practical application had produced results that many experienced snipers would find challenging to achieve. The shooting session concluded with Victor expressing surprise at Sarah's rapid adaptation to extreme-range shooting requirements. He admitted that his initial skepticism about her practical abilities had been unfounded, and that her technical knowledge had translated into shooting performance more effectively than he had expected. His assessment provided validation of Sarah's professional capabilities while revealing his own expertise and fair-minded approach to evaluation. Victor's final communication before departing revealed aspects of his background and current situation that explained his interest in Sarah's abilities. He indicated that he had been conducting independent assessment of military capabilities in the region, gathering information that might prove valuable for future operations or negotiations. His professional evaluation of Sarah's skills would be included in reports to unspecified superiors. The encounter concluded with mutual professional respect between Sarah and Victor, despite the unusual circumstances of their meeting. His challenge had tested her abilities in ways that normal military training never could, while her successful adaptation to extreme-range shooting had impressed someone with extensive experience in such applications. The experience had transformed both participants' understanding of their respective capabilities and limitations. Sarah's return to base brought extensive debriefing sessions with intelligence personnel who were eager to analyze every aspect of the encounter. Victor's expertise, equipment, and operational methods provided valuable insights into capabilities that might be encountered in future operations. The information gathered would contribute to improved understanding of threats and opportunities in the region while advancing Sarah's own professional development in ways that conventional training could never achieve.